Greetings everyone, welcome back to my channel on Nordic and Germanic, more broadly speaking, language and history. This is Irina. If you like the same topics I like, or at least are a little bit interested in what I talk about, I kindly invite you to my YouTube channel as well as to my Facebook page. A little bit about me. I am Romanian, currently living in Germany, and I have a PhD in Norse cultural studies. It's interdisciplinary, more exactly. You can find it on academia.edu. You can also download it and read it in your free time, my PhD, I mean. I also have a couple of articles on the Ancient History Encyclopedia. I linked my page in the description, so feel free to check those out as well. Well, today I'm going to introduce to you a very interesting and valiant character from Old Norse literature by the name of Gunnar. Gunnar, unfortunately, is not as well known as other heroes from the saga literature. For example, Sigurd, the dragon slayer, probably the better, or the best known. However, he is very important because he is the epitome of the perfect, the ideal Viking warrior, at least in the manner he was perceived in this later literature, which nevertheless can be used as a source, as a gate towards a better understanding of more ancient and archaic mentalities regarding society and civilizational ideals from before the settlement of Iceland. So that's why we're going to talk about him, because he's not to be neglected. He is, like I said, truly a vital character from a very important saga, by the way. He is from the saga of Brennunjol. I completely recommend it because it is brilliantly written. It's very entertaining. It has a lot of complexity, a lot of detail, and you will find a lot of colorful and rich episodes and characters. And someday, at some point, I would really like to see a movie, at least one movie made after it, because it's definitely worth a shot. I'm going to start with a description of the character, so I'm going to quote you directly from an English translation, the translation of Einar Sveinsson, and then we're going to see why Gunnar is so important in Old Norse literature. So I'm going to quote to you from chapter 19. It goes like this. There was a man called Gunnar Hámundarson who lived at Hlíðarend in Fljótshlíð. Gunnar was tall and strong and more skilled in the use of weapons than any other man. He could strike or shoot with whichever hand he pleased, and he could swing his sword so rapidly that there seemed to be 3 swords in the air at once. Gunnar was a very fine bowman who never missed his target. He could jump higher than his own height in full armor and was able to leap as far backwards as he could forwards. He swam like a seal, and there was no sport in which anyone had any hope of competing with him. It has been said that he had no equal. Gunnar was a handsome man with a fair complexion and a straight nose that turned up at the end. He had flashing blue eyes, rosy cheeks, and a fine head of golden hair. He was an extremely courteous man, but tough-minded in everything. He was open-handed and even-tempered, slow to make friends, but loyal to those he made. He was very well off. So from this description in chapter 19, I suppose very little commentary is necessary, because we could clearly see that this character, Gunnar, is perhaps the embodiment of Vikingness, of this archaic ideal as presented in Old Norse literature. He's definitely larger than life. He is a true hero, gathering an enormous amount of skills. He's described as having no equal, and he's full of these talents and gifts and virtues. However, he cannot escape the circle of violence and bloodshed specific to a society where things like the status and appearance and honor were absolutely vital, as well as social relationships and kin relationships, respectively. And then, of course, we have the motif of the inescapable fate a fate which is embraced by Gunnar at the end as part of his heroic Viking destiny. All right, so I'm going to tell you briefly what Gunnar does in the first part of the saga of Njol. Then you can decide for yourselves if he is indeed truly worthy of this, let's say, title of the perfect Viking or the ideal Viking. So we find out about him in that he helps his cousin Un regain the control of her property after divorcing her former husband, who was unable to consume the marriage given due to a curse placed upon him by a Norwegian queen. I also made a short video about that, so if you're interested, you can check it out. And for that, he goes to his friend Njol. By the way, he's very good friends with Njol, the main character of the saga, and asks for advice. And Njol tells him to try to disguise himself as a peddler and gain a reputation in the area, and then maybe have befriend or at least have some fun with the former husband of her cousin, so this Hrut guy, and trick him into teaching him a legal formula that he can then use at the gathering, the All Thing, in order to regain the property, which Gunnar, a piece of advice which Gunnar follows, and he ends up bringing Hrut to the All Thing, and even tells him that if he does not accept this settlement, he will be challenged to a duel. Hrut refuses this because he's afraid of Gunnar. He knows that he has a reputation for being very fierce and valiant. All right, so this was the introduction, if you will, to the character. Then he does something which is very well regarded in this society, which is to go abroad and to fight a lot of Vikings and pirates, and he does this with his brother Kolskeg, and they are both very valiant and brave and fighting restlessly. He acquires a very nice weapon, a so-called Otgeir. It's very unclear what it exactly was. Seems like it was a spear with an axe head. But anyway, he becomes a very wealthy man and ready to return to Iceland and start a family of his own. So he shows up at a banquet, and he notices this woman, Hallgerd, who is very beautiful, but as people say, very dangerous, because her two former husbands had been murdered. Nevertheless, Gunnar takes his chances, and he ends up marrying her. All right, what happens next is that his wife is a very ill-tempered and proud character, and she engages in a game of insults, if you will, with the wife of his best friend Njol. Yeah, so this starts at a feast where Njol's wife Bergthora asks Hallgerd to step aside from the seat she was occupying, because that was meant for her daughter-in-law, as she had a higher social position than all of them. And then the insults keep going on, but the problem is that they are not only at a verbal level, they evolve into bloodshed. And it happens that Gunnar and Njol, they share this forest among each other, and one day Hallgerd sends a man to kill Bergthora's slave, who was involved in some household activities there. And this triggers more killings afterwards, and in the end, the foster father, an important figure of Njol's sons, gets involved in the conflict, a guy named Thord, and he ends up getting killed as well by Gunnar's cousin by the name of Sigmund. Oh well, Sigmund in his turn gets killed by the sons of Njol. Hallgerd actually manages to drag even Njol's sons into the story. But the feud is not pushed any further because it is said that Sigmund had been heard composing poems about Njol and his sons being beardless. Which was the equivalent of having said that they were unmanly. So it was accepted to kill someone if confronted with such an injury. All right, the next relevant episode is when a famine breaks out and Gunnar goes to another neighbor by the name of Otkel to ask for some food, and he ends up buying a slave instead. A slave whom Hallgerd then sends to actually steal and burn from his former household. When Gunnar at another feast sees all this cheese, he knows that he doesn't have that kind of food in his house, and he asks her where she got it from. Well, Hallgerd refuses to reveal the fact that she had actually stolen it, so Gunnar this time gets really angry and slaps her. This would turn out to be probably the worst decision he had ever made, because it would come back and haunt him at the end of his story. All right. Afterwards, with the help of a kinsman by the name of Morth, they eventually find out about this whole thing, and Gunnar, being rightful and generous, he offers to pay Otkel for this damage. Otkel, on the other hand, is ill-advised, or better said, he is lied to by his friend, who tells him that the two chieftains he consulted advised him not to accept the settlement, which was actually untrue. Well, he refuses to make a deal as such, but it is revealed when Gunnar is summoned for prosecution, actually at the Althing, at the gathering. It is revealed that this was a deception, and Gunnar gains the right to self-judgment, to decide for himself what he has to pay. And he pays nothing. He even refuses Otkel his friendship. All right. So afterwards, one day Gunnar is on his meadow. I think sowing some seeds or something like that. But anyway, Otkel and his party of men, they are riding there, and Otkel's rather wild horse causes Gunnar to get a scratch. So basically, Otkel loses control of this horse, and when riding, he grazes his cheek with the spur. All right, so Gunnar again tries to keep calm, a thing which is rather impossible under these circumstances and in this society, which requires from you to react, and to react violently when you are insulted. So when Gunnar hears the rumor that he cried when this incident happened, he takes his brother, and a great battle on a river, a tremendous battle ensues, and as a consequence, Otkel's party is killed. Next, another conflict with another character. So after he is invited at a horse fight, it was quite a popular sport in the back of the day. He is accidentally, well, more or less, struck by the son of another neighbor, Starkath, and this triggers another conflict. There is an ambush, and Gunnar's other brother, Hjort, gets killed. This leads to a legal case, as expected, to arbitration, but the anger against Gunnar's family sparks off the reaction of the other characters in the future. So they are trying to get Gunnar outlawed so that he can then be killed with more ease. And Njol actually wants Gunnar not to kill twice in the same family, because that would be his doom. And, saga literature is actually very, very predictable. But yeah, nevertheless, people really enjoyed it, although yeah, you basically knew from the start what was about to happen. So the sons of Otkel and Starkath, both by the name of Thorgeir, they plot with the kinsmen of Gunnar, Morð, and eventually the son of Otkel gets killed. So the prophecy of Njol also fulfills itself, as Gunnar kills twice in the same family, and he ends up getting outlawed with his brother called Skegg. They want to escape. They want to leave Iceland. His brother does so, but Gunnar refuses to after having an accident, after falling off his horse, and upon raising his look and seeing this beautiful landscape of Iceland, he decides that he doesn't really want to leave his homestead. A brave decision, but a foolish one. As it happens, for a while, nobody dares to pick up with him because he is this very feared and appreciated warrior. He still has a reputation despite all these feuds. Eventually a group led by another chieftain, Gizur, comes after him, and after they kill his dog Sorm, who had this gift of foreseeing danger, they managed to attack Gunnar's farmstead. But Gunnar, as we know, is a very good fighter and a very good archer. He actually manages to fend off his enemy. He resists valiantly in his house against them. But then something happens which again is kind of like a device to push things further into the direction of Gunnar's doom. It so happens that when he sees them flee, he decides to shoot at them with their own arrows to prove himself or something. After shooting at them with one of their own arrows, they get encouraged, the enemies get encouraged to come back because they think he's out of arrows. And at some point, Gunnar gets his bowstring cut, and he asks Hallgerd for her help with a streak of hair so that he could pull off another bowstring. This would have probably not worked, but it is a narrative device. Hallgerd remembers the slap Gunnar offered her a while ago, and she refuses to help her husband. Maybe she wants a little bit of glory herself for doing so. This ends up in Gunnar's death because they the enemies tie ropes around the beams of the house and manage to pull off the roof. After Gunnar's death, unfortunate death, he is buried in a mound, and his spirit lives on, so kind of like a zombie, an afterganger. And he wanders outside in the night, composing poems about dying and fighting, and one of Njol's sons, Skarphedinn, overhears this and thinks it is a hint at revenge. And he, in his turn, goes on and kills a son of Gizur, the chieftain, as well as Starkath and his son. Alright, so as you can see, Gunnar, great fighter, a great warrior, tries to be tactical and more diplomatic, more to hold his temper, but like I said before, this is a society where it is more appreciated if you react, and if you react in a decisive and tough way. So you have to be a Viking, you have to be manly, you have to prove yourself. And Gunnar does manage to prove himself in many ways in this story until his end. Given his many talents and many actions, I think it's safe to assume that he is, from a lot of points of view, this epitome of Vikingness, manliness, this archaic ideal of a warrior. If you enjoyed the story, I kindly ask you to like and subscribe. follow me for more. Yeah, until then, I wish you all the best and good luck in everything you do. Bye.